What's good, everybody? If you're sick of getting expelled with losses from the arena, make sure to check out this guide of Lucie, the expelled alchemist, to figure out how to be the jack of all trades. Alright, so as you guys know, I don't typically just sit there and read the skills, so we're just going to go over the skills very quickly, and we're going to weave in some tips and tricks into those skills. So first off is her M1. Her M1 is a projectile attack with actually a relatively long windup. So it hits a target and puts toxic on them, and toxic will deal a dot damage as over the like 6 seconds or something like that. So it does initial damage and then dot damage. And her first EX is actually on this. It's on her M1. It's called Deadly Injection. And so Deadly Injection hits, and you see a little bit of delay, and then they take huge damage. And so there's a lot of combo setups with Deadly Injection, which we'll get into later. But you gotta learn to weave Deadly Injection into your repertoire. It is one of the best skills, I think, in her kit. So her M2, which is a heal, and her heal, after it heals a small amount, will then give a small heal over time on your teammate. So she does damage and then does a little bit of damage over time, and then she does a heal and then a little bit of heal over time. And so it's very nice as it lets you to get into the other parts of her kit, which makes her so strong, which is her crowd control and some of her protection skills, which we'll get into now. So these are pretty straightforward. You know, you just want to hit people with damage and hit people with heal a little bit. So her space is her barrier, and when you cast a barrier on yourself, it's like 50 damage or something like that. It's very significant. So be sure you're using barrier often, and make sure that you're using it wisely though at the same time. If you got a teammate who is getting focused, use it on them to help absorb some damage. But just remember that good teams, what they're going to do is when they see you put a barrier on somebody, then they're going to often change targets, or they're going to stop DPSing. So the best way to try to do it is, if you can, barrier something in mid-flight to make sure that you know it's going to work. There's some other Battlerites that you may get in the future though that will change some of that, and we'll look at that when we get into the Battlerites. But just make sure to space often and to use it wisely. So moving on to Clarity Potion. Clarity Potion is one of her most versatile skills. There are a lot of different things you can do that. So that is her Q. And her Q, it will take a buff off an enemy, or it'll take a debuff off an ally. It does no damage and it does no healing unless you, again, get Battlerites to help that. But it also has an AoE pushback. So as you can see, it pushed them back. And it pushes back from the center of the skill. And this is why she is so versatile and so strong, in my opinion. There's a lot you can do with this. So I've been in situations and where like a Sirius had put their stun on me right here. And so as you know, if you hold control, you will self-cast. And so if you just self-cast it on yourself like that, as you see there, my mouse is way over here, you self-cast. And I've had the Sirius Petrify hit me, and then I dispel it from myself. That is huge. That is super huge. And another thing to do is, because again, you take a lot of pressure, is you're taking a lot of melee pressure, and you know you're trying to M1 or run or space or whatever you got to do, but you can self-cast your Q, and again, pushes it away from you. And who is this really good against? This is really good against Croak. And so what can happen sometimes, there's a few scenarios. So let's say this dummy is Croak, and let's say Croak is invisible, or you know that he invis and he's coming near you. All right, so he's coming near you, you self-cast it, and there's a couple outcomes that will happen. Either you hit Croak and it dispels his camouflage and pushes him away, or he hits you with the stun and then it dispels the stun from you and pushes him away. So it really can't have a bad outcome. The only bad outcome is that he backs off and doesn't walk into this. However, if he does that, then likely you're going to get away. So whenever you see that Croak come onto you and you're afraid he's about to jump on your face, just hit that control Q, drop it on you, and it's going to help self-peel that Croak right off of you And same with Freya. You know, a lot of Freyas jump in, they do a little bit of damage, then they hit their counter. Boom, right there. Dispel the counter, push Freya away from you. Very, very strong against melees. So make sure you're using that wisely. The other thing is too is sometimes you might see your teammate about to get hit by some big CC or an AoE CC, because that's the other thing to think about is if you get multiple teammates who are crowd controlled, you can hit multiple people just like that and dispel multiple people. So that could be a good use. So next, moving on to her E is called Panic Flask. And so what Panic Flask is a fear, and it's cast in a line, and it actually has pretty decent range. One of the things to remember is that it has a small explosion at the tip of it. So as you see, that was a little bit farther than the actual indicator, but it hit him. And so it does 12 damage and then makes the enemy run in fear. And so then here's where some of the combos come in. So if you're taking pressure, you don't have your Q up, this is another way to self-peel. It's a little bit riskier than using your Q. However, it has a lot more upside. So what the upside is you hit it, you M1, and then you hit with the deadly inject. And that does huge damage. So there is so much pressure you can put on them with just 25 energy. So you'll end up doing 12 from the fear. If you hit them with the M1, you're going to do 12 plus 12 over time. And then the deadly inject is going to hit them for 24. So you do the math there. Maybe I'll do it in the video in the annotations and you can see it there. I'm not going to do it real quick in this video, but that is big damage. And so you're going to really make that melee think twice about coming into your face. But then her other EX, which is really good, is Petrify. And the Petrify has huge AoE. So I'm actually going to kill these to make them respawn. And the Petrify is quite good. So I'm excited to show you this. This is really like top level stuff. I think you absolutely have to use the Petrify in your game. So here come a couple of them. So I'm going to back up just a little bit and use the Petrify. And you see it has a much longer range than your E. So there's your E and there's your Petrify. Much longer range. It's casted way faster. It doesn't do any damage. However, wow, it only hit that one. I thought it was still going to hit all three here. But you can see it petrifies him for quite a long time. And that is really good. There's a couple different ways to use it, in my opinion, is when you are fighting for the middle orb, you can kind of petrify the orb and it'll possibly hit the melee or likely hit the melee depending upon where you place it. So if you have a guy over here trying to get it, you can kind of cast it on the side there, petrify them, and get the middle orb. And that's actually another thing for the clarity potion to back up when you're fighting with the orb, is the orb is affected by the clarity potion. So you cast it over there, push it towards your team, and help guarantee that your team gets the orb. So make sure you're using the Petrify, especially when you're taking high pressure. In my opinion, it's best to try to do it to the person not on, or like not right on the person's other teammate's face. Why I'm saying that is you think, well, don't I want to crowd control them for them? Well, you do, but the problem is that usually your teammate's going to panic and do damage to them and then break the Petrify right away. So what you can do is petrify the other person, and then now you have a 2-on-1 and you can help stabilize. If you have really good coordination and you're in voice comms, you could probably say, hey, you know, I'm going to petrify the guy for you, don't hurt him, and then you'll be able to set up. You know, you could do some things like that, but that's really hard to do. Unless you're in super high level play, people aren't going to respond that fast. So next is roll. And so, okay, let's say you're fighting, you've used your Q, you've used your E, and oh man, you're still taking pressure. You've used your space, oh, and I'm still not able to get away. Well, now you have a roll. It costs 25 energy, and it's actually really great repositioning tool. Unfortunately, it's her only repositioning tool. So you got to make sure that you hit your E's and your Q's, because you don't have repositioning tools outside of this 25 energy cost. And the other benefit of this is if you're hit by an opponent's deadly inject, or maybe your deadly inject got redirected into you somehow by Uldur or Bako, or maybe you have a Croak ultimate on you, you have immunity frames in this. So when the thing's about to explode, make sure you roll and avoid the damage from those things. So now, onto her ult, which in my opinion, is one of the top 2 worst ults in the game. So I would try to get using her ult out of your system. Use the Deadly Inject, use the Petrify. They are so much better in my opinion. But let's say for whatever reason you're in a big fight and you have your ultimate and you see a great time to use it. All of the enemies' escapes are down, etc., and you use it. Well, sometimes what happens is in the travel time and all of that, you just get somebody barely on the edge. Oh, did I just cast twice? I did not mean for that to cast twice. That was crazy. Oh, it's because I don't have the cooldowns on. Oh, that's pretty funny. Okay, sorry about that distraction in the video. But, so, what happens is, I'm going to let these guys spawn back up, and I'll probably just going to edit that out, to be honest, but we'll see. Okay, so if they're on the edge of the goo, you can immediately cast your Flask and push them into the center of the goo. And that's what you want to try and do when you use your ultimate, because it's going to be very hard to get them dead center. If you get them dead center, great. But something to keep in mind too is what a lot of people do is they say, oh man, they're in the goo, I want to focus them and make sure they die right away. But if somebody doesn't have their escape, what they're going to try to do to get out of there is use their counter. And so I've seen so many people hit the counter of a Sirius about to die or a Shifu about to die, and they hit the counter in the goo, and I'm like, why? Why are you going to hit the counter? They're going to die anyways, just let them be. So be sure not to trigger counters when you see them sitting in goo. If that means you don't attack them, don't attack them. Let them sit there and rot. And so keep that in mind. Now there is one other time that the ultimate for Lucie is amazing. Okay, is in sudden death. You're in sudden death, you're in the middle, the muck is closing in on you here, and there's these kind of rings here. If you see, it kind of comes in and then it comes in again. Well, look, if you drop this dead center, it basically covers this whole middle ring. So when you're in this and you're able to drop the goo here, you basically are you're forcing them to be in muck one way or another, and it's a huge opportunity to swing the fight. So if you're in sudden death with Lucie and you have the opportunity, you already have your ult, or like you see that coming in, that might be a time to hold on to your ult. And one way you could also kind of guarantee that you do this too is the muck's closing in, you can cast your Petrified bolt, you stun them, get the middle while that is down, and then as it's back, you boom, you drop your ultimate and you're able to get tons of damage. So we're going to talk about a couple combos now. I didn't do a good job of talking about combos because she has a lot of them. So we talked about the E into M1 into Deadly Inject. Great combo there. Got to use it. Another one is after you hit a Petrify, as you see it comes down, the Deadly Inject doesn't do damage right away. So as you see the Deadly Inject's on him, it comes off, then breaks. So that is a great opportunity to set up real big damage. So as the Petrify is about to break, make sure you hit that Deadly Inject, hit him with an M1, and then they'll take a lot of damage as that Petrify comes off. So that's another really good combo to use. Make sure you're setting that up, and hopefully your teammate, what they're doing is as the Petrify is getting close to breaking, they're going to be hitting them with big damage too if you're able to set that up. And so to me, those are her two major combos, is the E into M1 into Deadly Inject, and then also the Petrify. As the Petrify is gonna break, you cast a Deadly Inject on it and hopefully does big damage. See, and I did it too early there, so that he didn't take much damage. So you do that, let it wait. Just be okay with it waiting. Hit it there, and now when it comes off, it does huge damage. So hopefully that'll help a little bit with it, with your ability to use Lucie. You have a couple ideas of some combos. You have some ability to now hopefully survive. So now that you have that, let's take a look at some of the Battlerites. So Lucie has some very powerful Battlerites, and a lot of them are good. And you need to be able to adjust to your own team comp along with your opponent's team comp. So be sure to pick what's right according to the situation. So in round one, we have Blast Shield, which gives you a knockback around the shield when the shield is applied, and it deals a little bit of damage. The Chaos creates an AoE explosion with your E, and it will fear multiple targets, and it'll damage multiple targets. And then potency is anytime you debuff or take a buff off of somebody, you deal damage to them. And if you take a debuff off of your own team, you'll heal them. And so this might be good against a Varesh or something like that, where this might be good against a heavy melee comp that doesn't have a lot of counters. Or maybe you want Blast Shield to help peel for you or a teammate because you have a Shifu that you know is going to be super sticky. So pick accordingly. I would say Blast Shield because I am sick of Shifu sitting on my face. But again, all three are good. So in round 2, we have Alacrity, which is increased movement speed when you cast your barrier on somebody. The Clarity Potion gets a snare, and that one's adhesive component. And then Companion Potion, which is a slightly increased heal. In my opinion, what I see a lot in the high level play and what I think is most likely best is going to be that increased movement speed, because when you're taking high pressure and you need to get away, that increased movement speed will allow you to, reposition, reset. Same for your team. If you got to cast it on somebody far away, it allows them to reposition well. And so that way, having the slow or having the little extra heal, I think you get much more value out of the movement speed. So next one is Swift Roll. Whenever you use your roll, you get an increased movement speed. The Hysteria, it decreases the cooldown of your Flask, and it decreases it even more if you hit it. And then Weakening Toxic, which anytime Toxic is on somebody, that person receives less healing and deals less damage. I think that's your go-to. You absolutely have to pick this in almost every single case because it allows you to survive a little bit longer. It allows them to not get healed better, which means that they don't take more damage, but they keep more of their damage. And so when they're getting pressured, that doesn't allow them to heal up as much. I just think it's much better all around, and that's what I'm seeing a lot of the top players pick. Round 4 is Vampiric Toxic, heals you for 8. Agility, increased movement speed, and Stimulant, anytime Revitalizes on someone, they get 15% damage. Now that Revitalize is the heal over time from your M2, from your heal. So I think that one is quite strong. I think your movement speed one is strong if you're getting a lot of pressure and you need a little extra movement speed. And I actually think the Toxic with the little heal is strong because if you're able to heal while M1ing, it allows you not to need to M2 yourself. But again, it's all going to be dependent upon your team comp and the enemy team comp. So I would say Stimulant or Toxic, Vampiric Toxic most likely. I think those are two very good picks. So onto the ult, you have Alchemy, which is the Crippling Goo resets the Clarity Potion, meaning your ult resets the cooldown of Q. And then Sticky Goo just means it has a higher slow, so it slows already. In my opinion, you get the Crippling Goo or Alchemy always because you want to push that person into the middle as we talked about before. Plus, it's most likely that people are going to use the shields on somebody who is trapped in the goo. And so as you push them deeper into the goo, you're going to dispel those shields so they continue to take the damage. And the increased slow doesn't really matter because you're pushing them into the center of the goo. So I think Alchemy is better in all sense of the matter. So those are my picks for the Battlerites. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and were able to learn something. Instead of showing you a video of me playing a little bit, I'm just going to go ahead and link a video to the tournament this weekend. There was so many great Lucies out there. I'm going to link you to the playlist. Go ahead and check them out. And specifically in the finals, there was some great Lucie play, and I think that's the best way you're going to learn. So go ahead and hit that one. It's the top video. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please subscribe for more Battlerite content. Follow me on Twitter and on Twitch. And if you have any questions, leave a comment. Thanks so much for watching the video. Thanks for joining the most positive place in gaming, and you all have a wonderful day.